woman walks into a bar. That's not the start of a joke. It's the start of one of the most baffling disappearances in American history. On the night of March 31st, 2006, a 27-year-old medical student named Brian Shaffer walked into a bar near Ohio State University. A security camera recorded him going in. But here's the thing, the camera never recorded him walking out. Not through the front door, not through any door, not at closing time, not ever. His car was still at his apartment. His wallet, his phone, his bank accounts, untouched. A flight to Miami he'd booked with his girlfriend 2 days later. He never showed. That was 20 years ago, and to this day, no one has any idea what happened to Brian Shaffer. No body, no evidence, no goodbye, nothing. How does a person walk into a building on camera and simply stop existing? My name is Jacob Chol, and this is the 12 a.m. show.
There is one name that probably resonates more than any other: Brian Shaffer. His case has the makings of a Hollywood movie. A young medical student last seen going up this escalator to a popular campus area bar.
Who was Brian Shaffer? There are thousands of missing persons cases in this country. Around 600,000 people are reported missing every year, according to the Department of Justice. Most are found. Most have explanations. Brian Shaffer's case has none. What makes this disappearance so unsettling isn't just that he vanished. It's that he vanished from a place that should have made vanishing impossible. The bar was on the second floor of a commercial building with security cameras. There was essentially one public way in and one public way out, and both were monitored. The footage shows Brian going in. It does not show Brian coming out, and yet he's gone. That contradiction, that locked room impossibility, is what turned a missing person case in Columbus, Ohio, into one of the most discussed unsolved mysteries on the internet. And after 2 decades, it's no closer to being resolved. What's Brian Shaffer? Brian Randall Shaffer was born on February 11, 1979, and grew up in Pickerington, Ohio, a quiet suburb outside Columbus. He was the older of 2 sons. He graduated from Pickerington High School in 1997, then went to Ohio State University, where he earned a degree in microbiology in 2003. But Brian didn't stop there. In 2004, he enrolled in Ohio State's College of Medicine. He was a second-year medical student with excellent grades. People who knew him described him as bright, driven, well-liked. He was also a music lover. He had a tattoo on his upper right arm, a stick figure logo from the cover of Pearl Jam's single Alive. He told friends that despite pursuing medicine, his real dream was to start a band and play music in the style of Jimmy Buffett, Somewhere Tropical. By early 2006, Brian was in a serious relationship with Alexis Wagoner, a fellow medical student. Those close to the couple believed Brian was planning to propose, possibly during a spring break trip they had booked to Miami, scheduled for April 3rd. But the weeks before that trip were devastating. In March 2006, just 3 weeks before Brian disappeared, his mother, Renee, passed away from cancer. Brian had been close with her. His friends said the loss hit him hard, but that he appeared to be handling it. No one who knew him described him as suicidal or deeply depressed. He was grieving, yes, but he was also moving forward, with school, with Alexis, with life. He had every reason to keep going, and that's part of what makes what happened next so difficult to understand. The last night, March 31st, 2006. It was a Friday, the last day of classes before spring break at Ohio State. That evening, Brian had dinner with his father, Randy, at a steakhouse. His dad later said Brian looked exhausted. He'd been up late that week, cramming for exams. Randy wasn't sure his son should go out afterward, but he didn't say anything. After dinner, Brian met up with his friend, a former roommate named Clint Florence. The two started the night at the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a bar on the second floor of the South Campus Gateway complex on High Street. Around 10 p.m., Brian called his girlfriend Alexis, who was visiting family in Toledo before their Miami trip. It was a normal call, nothing unusual. Then Brian and Clint went bar hopping. They worked their way through the University District and down to the Arena District, having a shot of hard liquor at each stop. After midnight, they ran into Meredith Reed, a friend of Clint's. She gave them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna Saloon.
Insurance money, Randy never told me that, so I can't speak on that really.
Security cameras captured Brian, Clint, and Meredith going up the escalator into the bar at 1:15 a.m. on April 1st, 2006. And this is where the night starts to unravel. The last image. At approximately 1:55 a.m., a security camera outside the bar recorded Brian standing near the escalators, talking to two college-age women. He appeared relaxed. He spoke to them briefly, what looked like a casual goodbye, and then moved off-screen, back toward the inside of the bar. That is the last confirmed image of Brian Shaffer, ever. When the bar closed at 2 a.m., Clint Florence told police he couldn't find Brian. He and Meredith Reed left with other patrons and waited outside, but Brian never appeared in the departing crowd. They assumed he had simply walked home. His apartment was only about 6 blocks away. But Brian didn't go home. He didn't call anyone. He didn't text anyone. He didn't show up anywhere. When Alexis couldn't reach him the next day, she went to his apartment and waited. She stayed there for 2 full days, hoping he would walk through the door. On Monday, April 3rd, the day they were supposed to fly to Miami together, Brian didn't show up at the airport. That's when the family reported him missing. The impossible puzzle. When Columbus police started investigating, they went straight to the security cameras at the South Campus Gateway building. What they found was deeply strange. The footage clearly shows Brian going up the escalator into the bar at 1:15 a.m. But it does not show him coming back down. It does not show him leaving the building through the front entrance. At closing time, when dozens of patrons filed out, Brian was not among them. One of the original investigators later said he reviewed the footage extensively and stated, in his words, with 100% certainty, that Brian did not leave via the escalator. So how did he get out? There was one other possibility. Near the area where Brian was last seen on camera, there was a service door. It wasn't meant for public use, but it existed. That door led down to a first-floor hallway, and at the time, that hallway connected to an active construction area that had its own exterior exit. Some investigators thought it was plausible Brian could have used that route. Others pushed back, arguing it would have been difficult to navigate while sober, let alone after a night of drinking. The cameras in that area weren't reliable. One panned back and forth constantly, the other was operated manually. It's possible Brian could have slipped through undetected, but no one can confirm it. Police didn't stop at the Gateway building. They checked security cameras at 3 other nearby bars. None of them captured Brian either. They brought in police dogs. They searched dumpsters, alleyways, nearby streets. They searched the sewers beneath Columbus. They found nothing. At Brian's apartment, his car was parked outside. Inside, everything looked normal. His belongings were untouched. His phone, credit cards, and bank accounts have never been used since the night he vanished. Brian Shaffer had, to every observable measure, ceased to exist. The friend who stopped talking. As investigators dug deeper, they started looking closely at the people who were with Brian that night. Brian's father, Randy, took a polygraph test. He passed. Meredith Reed took one. She passed. Others who had seen Brian that evening were tested. They all passed. But Clint Florence, Brian's friend, the one who had been with him all night, refused. Florence initially cooperated with police, but shortly after Brian's disappearance, he hired a lawyer and stopped talking. His attorney advised him not to take a polygraph. He declined further interviews. He eventually changed schools and distanced himself from everyone connected to the case. He has not publicly spoken about what happened. Now, it's important to be fair here. Refusing a polygraph is not evidence of guilt. Polygraph results aren't admissible in court for good reason. They're not considered reliable. Many lawyers advise their clients not to take them, regardless of the circumstances. And there is no publicly known evidence tying Florence to Brian's disappearance. But the silence left a mark. Brian's brother Derek later said he always felt Florence definitely knows something. Brian's girlfriend Alexis echoed that suspicion, though she believed Brian was likely no longer alive and had not simply run away. Florence's own attorney wrote a letter after Randy Shaffer's death, suggesting that police believed Brian was still alive, and that it was Brian, not Florence, who was causing his family pain. The attorney maintained his client had shared everything from the beginning. Whether that's true remains an open question. The strange details that never added up. In the months after Brian vanished, a few strange things happened. Small details that fueled speculation and deepened the mystery. First, Brian's girlfriend Alexis continued calling his phone every night for a long time after his disappearance. Usually it went straight to voicemail. But one night in September 2006, months later, the phone rang 3 times. Alexis later wrote about it online. "I kept calling it to hear it purely because it was one of the best sounds I have ever heard, even if no one picked up." Brian's wireless provider said the ringing could have been a technical glitch, but a signal from the phone was detected pinging a cell tower in Hilliard, Ohio, about 14 miles northwest of Columbus. That ping was never fully explained. Second, in May 2006, someone broke into Brian's apartment. Police investigated, but ultimately determined the burglary was unrelated to his disappearance. Third, and perhaps strangest of all, after Brian's father, Randy, was killed in a freak accident in September 2008, an online condolence book was posted alongside his obituary. Someone left a message that read, "To Dad, love Brian, U.S. Virgin Islands." For a brief moment, it seemed like it might be a sign that Brian was alive, living somewhere far away under a new identity. But investigators traced the message to a public access computer in Franklin County, Ohio. It was a hoax. Someone had deliberately played on a grieving family's hope, a father's search, and a family's loss. Brian's father, Randy, never stopped looking for his son. After a psychic told him Brian's remains might be in the water near a bridge, Randy and Brian's younger brother Derek bought waders and spent weeks searching along the banks of the Olentangy River, which runs through Columbus near the Ohio State campus. They searched near bridges. They searched near piers. They found nothing. Randy had already lost his wife to cancer just weeks before his son disappeared. Now his eldest son was gone too, swallowed by a mystery no one could solve. In September 2008, a heavy windstorm tore through central Ohio. Randy went outside to clear debris from his yard in Baltimore, Ohio. A large tree branch broke loose and struck him. He suffered fatal injuries. Neighbors found him the next day. Randy Shaffer left this world without ever knowing what happened to his son. That left Derek, Brian's younger brother, as the only surviving member of the immediate family. 20 years later, Derek still holds on. "Every day we think about Brian and can't believe it's been 20 years, Derek said in a prepared statement for the anniversary. "We still continue to hope and pray to have answers someday, and wish that anyone who knows anything would come forward." Where the investigation stands 20 years later. In the 2 decades since Brian disappeared, police have followed countless tips. At one point, they were receiving at least 2 a month through the local Crime Stoppers line. Possible sightings were investigated in Michigan, Texas, and even Sweden. In 2019, A photo of an alleged American homeless man in Tijuana, Mexico, who resembled Brian, was sent to the FBI for facial recognition analysis. It was ruled out. None of it led anywhere. Columbus police say the case remains open and active. They say they continue to receive tips and conduct interviews, but they've declined to make anyone available for interviews about where the case stands. The evidence fills 4 boxes of files. Police have said they hold 3 theories about what happened, but they have never disclosed what those theories are, even in general terms. The former lead investigator, retired Sergeant John Hurst Jr., has spoken more openly. He's said the case haunts him to this day. Every law enforcement officer has that one case, he told the Columbus Dispatch. Even now I'm thinking, what can I do? Is there somebody I can reach out to? Hurst believes Brian did leave the bar that night. He just wasn't caught on camera doing it. He said police conducted an intense search of the entire building and found no trace of Brian inside. But after years of dead ends, Hurst now believes the case needs to be looked at differently. In his words, "At this point, we just need to start looking at it more as a murder." That's significant. For 20 years, this has officially been classified as a missing persons case. The lead detective is now saying, publicly, that he thinks it should be treated as a homicide. Meanwhile, critics have raised questions about how the case was handled from the beginning. A missing persons advocate named Lori Davis, who became close with Brian's family, revealed that for 4 or 5 years after Brian's disappearance, police never collected DNA from Brian or his relatives to enter into NamUs, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. That database has helped solve more than 46,000 missing persons cases. Without Brian's DNA in the system, it's possible remains could be found somewhere and never matched to him. A retired detective named Don Corbett, who volunteered his time to help the Shaffer family, has pushed for years to access the case files. He's offered to sign non-disclosure agreements. Every request has been denied. That refusal, Corbett has said, makes him wonder whether mistakes were made early on that the department doesn't want exposed. Columbus police have stood by their work. Hurst has acknowledged the criticism, but maintains that every lead was followed, and every officer who reviewed the case agreed that police did everything they could. And yet, 20 years later, the answer is the same. There are really only a few possibilities, and none of them are satisfying. Brian could have left the bar through the service exit and the construction area without being caught on camera, and then met with foul play outside. He could have suffered an accident while intoxicated and ended up somewhere his body was never found. He could have, despite everything his loved ones believe, walked away from his life in a moment of profound grief over his mother's death. Or someone in that bar, or outside of it, harmed him, and the lack of evidence isn't a coincidence, but a consequence. The lead investigator now leans toward that last possibility. But without a body, without physical evidence, without a witness willing to come forward, the case remains exactly what it has been for 20 years. A man who walked into a building on camera and never came out. Brian Shaffer was 6'2". He had hazel eyes and light brown hair. He wore wire-framed glasses and had a black spot on his left iris. He had a Pearl Jam tattoo on his upper right arm. He was wearing an olive green polo shirt over a white long-sleeved shirt, blue jeans, white Adidas sneakers, and a yellow cancer awareness bracelet, likely worn for his mother, who had passed away just weeks before. He would be 47 years old today. His brother still waits. The detective who worked the case still thinks about it every day. The cameras still hold their footage, and the question still lingers in the air like it did that first morning when the sun came up and Brian Shaffer was simply gone. How does a person disappear from inside a building? After 20 years, no one has the answer. If you know anything at all, about what happened to Brian Shaffer, please contact the Columbus Division of Police at 614-645-2358. Even a small detail could be the one piece of the puzzle that finally brings this family answers. And if this case stays with you, the way it stayed with the people who worked it. If you want to see more deep dives like this, hit subscribe. Share this video with someone. The more people who see these cases, the harder they are to forget. And sometimes, that's exactly what it takes.